In today's Bible class, we're going to be looking at lesson 30. The title of the lesson is The Vine and the Branches. So the first thing I want you to do before you start on the lesson is to read John chapter 15. You need to read from verses 1 to 27. That's going to be the background reference for the lesson. Read verses 1 to 27 of John chapter 15. The lesson is going to be discussing how Jesus was teaching his disciples and talking to them about being the vine, him being the vine and them being the branches. So after you read that section, you can go through the rest of this teaching and then be able to understand what comes afterwards. So 3 important lessons that are contained in this chapter. Number 1 is that the disciples had a responsibility. And then we'll also be looking at the world's persecution that Jesus warned them about. And then we'll also look at the Holy Spirit's coming, the wonderful counselor, the person that would help them get through everything. So the first thing, the disciples' responsibility. They had 2 responsibilities. Number 1 was to bear fruit, and number 2, their responsibility was to love the brethren. So bearing fruit, verses 1 to 8 of John 15 covers that. So as Jesus and his disciples were going down to Gethsemane, they passed a vineyard. So Jesus pauses by the vineyard and he says, "I'm the true vine and my Father is the vine dresser." So of course, back in the day, it was a farming culture and they understood the importance of a vine and a vine dresser, and somebody that takes care of it and tends the vine. Then he realized that this is an important teaching moment. Jesus did preach some messages, but most of his teachings were very practical, in the moment and on the go. So he started talking about, one, the nature of the fruit. He looked at the vine and he said, some say the vine needed to bear fruit. So because if it didn't bear fruit, it will be gotten rid of. So some of the things that he discusses here is that fruit is something that comes out of our lives based on us living a godly life. So in the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 22, 23 talks about the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And those things are produced out of your life. They don't just happen. So fruit is produced out of living a godly life. And in this case, being connected to the vine and being a branch that produces fruit. Some of the areas of fruit that you can be working on would be character, conduct. You can be working on producing converts. So a lot of times we may focus more on the converts, the people that you actually lead to the Lord. But a lot of your fruit, most of your fruit, especially at your age, is going to be just your character and your conduct, the way you act and the things that you do with the people around you, your friends, your family, and the people you interact with on a daily basis. So believers are to manifest the fruit of godly character and conduct as well as the fruit of another Christian. Then the other thing that Jesus talks to them about is loving the brethren. So the Christian life commands us to follow one of the 2 commandments, one of which was love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and the second one being just as important, loving your neighbor as yourself. So Jesus talks about the importance of us loving others as a fruit of us being connected to him, because he is love, God is love, and therefore if we're connected to him, love of God flows through us automatically. The second responsibility for the disciples was being warned about the world's persecution. So in John 15, 18 to 25, he talks about the persecution of the world. Persecution is a given. It's a natural companion of a Christian. Anyone who seeks to be godly will be persecuted. And this is what 2 Timothy tells us in chapter 3, verse 12. if you want to pursue Jesus, there will be some things that come against you almost automatically because you're going counterculture and counter the agenda of this world. Other thing, you'll be automatically rejected, just as Jesus was rejected. So it shouldn't be a shocking thing when people reject us, because our Christianity calls for that rejection. There are things we'll have to stand for that the world does not like and the people around us do not like, and therefore they will reject us. And then you're going to become unlike the world, and that will create its own persecution. Because you're going to separate yourself from some things that are worldly, things like movies, things like TV shows, things like casual jokes that may not be right, things like music that's worldly, places of entertainment, bad habits, attitudes towards morality, and attitudes and mindsets towards different things, opinions on social issues, and all these things that will create that separation and cause natural persecution. So we have to be prepared for that. The third thing the disciples were warned about is the Holy Spirit's coming. This is towards the end, verse 26 and 27. Christ reminds them the Holy Spirit will come and do three things for them: counsel them, be the wonderful counselor, be a defender, and then protect them from all persecution. So the things that they face, they'll be protected from and against them by the Holy Spirit's coming. We should determine now that regardless of the cost, we will be true disciples of Christ. So our discipleship will carry a hefty tag, but it's all worth it in the end. So we have to ensure that as we live our life with Christ, that we are constantly looking out for these three areas. You know that you have a responsibility to produce fruit and to love one another. You know that you will be persecuted by the world around you, and just because you believe in Jesus. And you also know that at the end, Holy Spirit is your defender, Holy Spirit is your counselor, and Holy Spirit is also there to protect you from all kinds of persecution. Your homework today will be questions on pages 218 to 220 for lesson 30, and we will discuss that next time. Let me know if you have any questions.